very good. Used to work for James Cameron. Very good. I said, I'm going flying. So I called up the helicopter guys and I said, let's go flying. And they're like, yeah. So we go in there. We started at the Science Center and flew backwards down the route until we found the shuttle. And it was that moment you saw where it was stuck in the neighborhood. And I said, so we called that shot, honey, I'm home. And honey, I bought a surplus shuttle from NASA. I brought it to the apartment. What's really amazing about that is they actually went through, they went through months and months of engineering analysis to try to figure out how could you get this thing through the streets. It's 80 feet wide. The tail is 54 feet tall. You cannot take the wings and tail off a shuttle because of the thermal protection tiles. There's 22,328 individual tiles on Endeavour, and no two are alike. So you cannot take them off. And there's 1,190 of those thermal protection blankets, the white parts on the top. So it's got to fit. It can't go down a freeway because of the overpasses and many other issues. However, as you saw in the little film, there was one bridge we had to cross, and that went over the 405 called the San Diego Freeway. It is in the top 10 busiest freeways on Earth. And in the middle of the night, we had to go over it. So the transportation department called Caltrans said, so 700,000 pounds and it's a space shuttle thing? So after a lot of falderall, we ended up having to take it off the robot, which took hours and a lot of big equipment, put it on this huge dolly system that had many axles. All by itself, the dolly weighed 100,000 pounds. And we were going to tow it over the 405 bridge. It was about an eighth of a mile. But we had to tow it with a big rig. And then we're going to bring the individual modules of the robot over and put the whole thing back together for the rest of the move. Well, we're going to do it with a big rig. Kind of coincidentally, in the middle of that, Toyota had made a donation to the California Science Center. And they said, hey, if we donate more money, can we pull the shuttle? And I don't know, how many people have seen the commercial? Anybody seen that? Yeah, okay. They've done really well with this. So it was just like, no frickin' way is a a little tiny pickup truck going to tow this humongous rig. And they said, if we can prove it to you, can we do it? And we said, maybe. So they went to a secret location in Southern California, got the same dolly system, put a bunch of 60,000-pound concrete blocks on it, and proved that they could tow it with the Tundra. Tundra is the big pickup. It's 5.7 liter. And after a lot of work, they were actually able to make it work. The interesting part is, I'm here to tell you, it was absolutely stock. There was no special effects. That was not a modified truck. They went to different dealers in Southern California with a car carrier, got a handful of them, just in case something went wrong with one. They had an engineer from Boeing crawl all over them, sign an affidavit with attorneys present that this is a stock truck. There's absolutely no special effects in that. So we're on. They wrote a very, very nice check to the Science Center. I'm a bit of the lightning rod for a lot of this stuff, and I've heard from, guess who? Ford, GM, Nissan, Dodge Ram. Hey, man, said, you had to get there with the check before the other guys. I'm sorry. This is a big, beefy pickup truck. So there was only one small detail that you don't see in the commercial. They convinced they could start rolling the shuttle, but this is a pickup truck with, pickup truck brakes. 300,000 pound load. On the other side of the bridge is a very subtle downgrade, very subtle, but with that much mass. So we had these visions that literally kept us up at night of like this, it's in the news for the next 3 days. The shuttle creams a pickup truck and wipes out into the shopping mall at the end of the street. And we're thinking, wow, shuttle goes to Walmart the hard way. It's actually a Walmart. So we said, and it went by Randy's Donuts, which is really cool. They made donuts shaped like they were crullers shaped like shuttles. It was awesome. But they didn't last long. So we had this whole thing happen with Toyota, and a side issue, which you also saw in the film, nobody's actually ever mounted a camera on a space shuttle in the whole program. And there's no place to put it, certainly not on ascent or descent. So when they would do inspections, those were, cameras on the end of the robotic arm and things like that. All those shots, those beautiful shots that you've ever seen, were taken from a camera on the solid rocket boosters or on the fuel tank. And that's why after a certain altitude, you don't get any more imagery because it went away. So I went to Boeing and NASA and I said, can we mount a camera on it to get a point of view, the shuttle's point of view? And they're like, no frickin' way. There's no place to attach it. We had like GoPro and all those guys really trying to help us. It wasn't getting anywhere. And then by a total coincidence, I happened to be in the hangar at United, and they took some tiles out with a special tool. I said, you can take tiles out? Yeah, just those. And there's all these 16 bolt points, and they bolt on the handle because they had to open the hatch for a safety inspection. Two guys that were like 200-pound guys like jerked this hatch open. And right about then, the magical part is the big guy from the science center, and the big engineering guy, he comes over and says to the NASA guy, we're going to want you to leave the handle on there because we don't have the tools to take it on, to mount it. And we're going to open the hatch one more time when it gets to the other end to make sure, everything's okay inside. And they have a big debate. He says, well, okay. But the handle is this beautiful piece of milled aluminum. So after that was all calmed down and they went and talked to their bosses and all that, they came back and I said, I just watched two grown men jerk on that handle. Do you think I could mount some cameras on it? And there's more debate and up the chain and the whole thing. And they finally acquiesced and said yes. But we really need to trust who's going to mount them because you're going to be on a man lift like right there near the tiles. You can break the tiles with your finger most of the time. You can like punch a hole. It's really amazing how fragile they are. They're like eggs. And do not mess with the tiles. That was the absolute rule because there's no way to replace them. So anyway, to make the long story longer, we got some guys from Disney Imagineering nearby and actually said to Boeing, would you trust guys from Disney Imagineering? They're like, oh yeah. Imagineers are cool. They're like Jedi Knights, And so they got this guy I came to call MacGyver, this young engineer who was brilliant. He just redesigned the end of Haunted Mansion. And you should go see it. And he went in their machine shop and built these beautiful brackets that mounted on there that were anodized to match the shades of the tiles and everything. Disney does everything at the highest level of quality, as we will see in the movie Planes. And we ended up mounting these cameras on there with huge batteries and all this stuff. And right before they towed the Tundra, I said, we could aim the cameras at the back of your pickup truck if you want. So they donated more money. And it was awesome. And that became part of the Super Bowl ad. And I'm actually in the Super Bowl ad. I'm like this little guy in an orange vest. Like I'm looking like an ant, but I know who I am. There's absolutely no trickery in that commercial, except for the one thing. They had to run a pneumatic hose that they zip tied under the trailer hitch so you couldn't see it because it would have looked weird. It was a club cab pickup. There's a guy in the back with a valve and a radio. And if somebody said, your brakes aren't working, hit the valve. They could have emergency stopped it like you would on a train. Never had to hit the valve, but it was at night. When it came to a stop, the brakes were literally glowing, white hot. And then the concern was they might fuse together and you won't be able to start the truck again, but after letting it cool down, they were able to pull the truck away and continue the move. The other thing you saw is we removed hundreds and hundreds of pieces of infrastructure, whole power poles, lights, traffic lights in some cases, bus stops, 2 complete railroad crossings. We had to suspend rail traffic. These are big train lines, and take the whole railroad crossing out. And then shuttle goes through and put the whole railroad crossing back together. So many people were involved. It passed through 3 city zones. I had to be in all the meetings with all the constabulary, emergency services, various public works departments. The last meeting before we moved the shuttle, there were 435 people in the meeting. And there was almost no agency where more than one person came. We had like the sewer guys. Oh, it weighs so much it might collapse the street and fall into the sewer. So we had to put 1,200 giant steel plates down the streets in various strategic locations to shield them from the weight of the machine. And it just kind of goes on and on. So now we have it, as you saw at the end of that little film, we have it ensconced in a Butler building, basically a hangar like you'd have around here. It's just a big hangar. And it's going to be there for the next couple of years on these seismic isolators. Now it's only 10 feet off the ground. And for the first time in history, you can now walk under a real space shuttle. You couldn't actually really do that at NASA because it was all cocooned in the orbiter processing facility, or it was on the runway really low to the ground. But we don't have it on its gear. It's actually on these big seismic isolators. They can supposedly go up to a force 8 on the Richter scale. And so the safest place to be in LA when the big one hits, under the space shuttle. So I said, oh, I'll just live there. I have eaten food under it. We had a meal under it. It was kind of cool. I don't know. So now what we're doing is we're completing a big fundraising, a lot of big philanthropists and big corporations to build the first major air and space center in the Western United States. It will be in the same league as the Smithsonian. It will be a 300-foot cylinder that will contain the shuttle as if it were about to take off. We have real solid rocket boosters, sans propellant. They still weigh 110,000 pounds each, that we got from NASA. We're temporarily storing them at Edwards Air Force Base. And we're going to build a fuel tank because, of course, the fuel tank kept going after the SRBs were ejected, and so we don't have any fuel tanks left. So we're going to build a sort of a proxy fuel tank that can support the whole stack, and also have things like elevators. Nobody's ever attempted to build a museum-like structure that's tall, not even slightly that tall. So it's a big engineering challenge. We're raising a lot of money right now, but I thought I'd show you really cool, right here, a quick little glimpse that we made with the architects of what this is going to look like. Oh yeah, it says confidential information. Oops. So much like Disney, we have the pre-show, and we're probably going to make this a holographic tunnel like you're going into the gantry. So here's what I'm going to do now. Let me tell you a couple more things about that, and I'm going to show you the future, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So that incredible building, the biggest engineering challenge is how to mount the shuttle vertically on a tank, without the VAB. That's never even slightly been attempted. But we've got Boeing, a lot of really ingenious architects. I mean, everybody wants to help, and I can't overemphasize, how amazing it's been to get help from the top people you can imagine in helping design and even execute the move. And pretty much it's all been donated, everything we've done, and all the people who have helped. Right now, if you come to Los Angeles, I encourage you to come visit Endeavor. The Science Center is open 10 to 5 every day but Christmas. It's free. But we've had so many people come, and it hasn't slowed down at all. It's been unbelievable. We opened the pavilion and the related exhibits on November 1st. We have had, I just asked before I came out, we've had 1.9 million people come to see the Shuttle Endeavor. It is quite a thing. And we've had, even the Disney guys said, wow, that's our kind of numbers. I said, help us build it bigger. But we don't charge 100 and something a ticket. It's free. But we got the idea from Disney to have a thing they call the Fast Pass, which gets you, you get it in the morning and go to the ride later. So we have a thing called the time ticket. I think they're like $1 or $2, so that you can get a place in line. And then that got so hectic, they came back to me and said, we don't have enough for people to do. Even though the Science Center is a lot to do, but it still wasn't enough. So we built 2 complexes where theaters take you on these journeys that we showed you. If these movies had real credits, they would actually be very successful in terms of how many people will watch them. So what I'm going to show you now is a quick sneak preview of the movie I started out in the first place to make called Space Shuttle and the New Pioneers. And this is a very quick trailer. They call it the sizzle reel. One of the major studios looks like they're going to distribute it worldwide, which is really cool. If I have my way, we will premiere the film at next year's AirVenture. Oh, that's not what you got to say. Hang on. There we go. Need good audio, please? More level, more level.
I think we're at the dawn of a new era, and I think it's going to be very exciting. What we're hoping to do is push the envelope and provide a reason for people to be excited and inspired to be human. We've done it.
What do you think? So that's been all of this has been a real labor of love. But I'm such a big believer in getting our youth excited about something, and science and technology is the thing. So, in between the amazing stuff that happens here with Young Eagles, KidVenture, what we're doing with the shuttle, I think we're going to inspire a whole new generation of young people to really, realize it's cool to be a scientist. One thing I realized a while ago, I've known Elon Musk for about 10 years, who you see in the film. He's, of course, the creator of SpaceX. And Paul Allen's doing that amazing thing, Stratolauncher, the biggest airplane that will have ever been made. I think it's a 374-foot wingspan, that drops a very large rocket from its belly, and incredible stuff going on. I realized something, that one of the reasons parents are going to say this is okay is that, you remember, I mean, I'm of the age where I remember where one day a geek was the richest man in the world, Bill Gates. And I remember my parents saying, hey, all that computer stuff you're doing, maybe that's not so bad. And if you talk to Mark Zuckerberg or Larry and Sergey, who founded Google, they all say about the same thing. Same reason, the Blue Angels say, I was inspired by Top Gun. We were inspired by people like Bill Gates, and they're now the new generation. Well, any time now, SpaceX and probably some of the other companies are going to have what in venture capital we call the exit. They're going to go public or be acquired for a lot of money. And people like SpaceX structure their companies unlike Northrop and Boeing. Everybody has a stock plan. It's just like Silicon Valley, because that's the roots of everybody funding this. They're all from Silicon Valley Ventures. And you know what? Someday the parents are going to say, you know what? It's cool to be a mechanical engineer. Look at those guys. It's cool to build rockets. It's cool to build airplanes. And we really look forward to that happening pretty soon, and it's all being fomented as we sit here. So our mission of telling that story and getting that out to young people, it's just fundamentally important. Anyway, I think we're going to open it up now we have a little Q&A, and then it's time for air show and fireworks.
David, before we do that, this has been an incredible presentation, by the way. I don't know about the rest of you, but
Thanks. Oh, thank you.
Good. I have a newfound appreciation for you, my friend. One of the things that is going to amaze you after seeing all of this and all it took to get this shuttle from one point to another is how little paperwork was involved. You have that piece of paper?
Actually, my friends in the front row have signs that say reserve seat. If you take them off your bottom and turn them over.
See these people down front here? Each one of them is holding a copy of the document, the entire document from the government that it took to transfer this aircraft, the spacecraft, from the government to the Science Center.
Now I'm going to bring that up if I can find it.
By the way, it has the value of the Endeavor.
Here we have the video screen on the computer.
It has the value of the Endeavor down in the lower right corner.
So I don't know if you guys can